And I think simplicity of the system was the key factor in terms of being able to drive that adoption everywhere. When I also say decision making in many aspects, right? You will want to make one way or the other, and I normally say decision making is very, very simple if you are able to put it very mathematically in your mind. But yeah,
mathematically in your mind, that is that's a very different perspective. As part of your career, what are the major technological shifts that you've seen happen, including places where you would have thought, okay, maybe this might not lead to anything much, but it has, those kind of experiences?
I think, see, when I came into the industry, we were, personal computers were starting off. World Wide Web or the internet was just starting at that time, right? That's the time I came in. Now, I mean, early days, those were web applications were coming in, and people were using internet a lot. Google became synonymous to search. All of this happened. And I think after that, mobile revolution was a bigger one again. People were using smartphones for everything that was happening. Cloud computing is another area. Okay, a lot of us were having machines or data centers in offices that moved to the cloud, and AI has been a major revolution actually. And I'm sure in the last couple of years we have talked about Gen AI. Now the latest is on agentic AI. So all of these buzzwords have, I've seen all of them. One of the things that I've seen is it's very, very important that as a tech person, you will have to stay in touch with all of this. Okay.
Absolutely.
And keep learning. Okay, and I this is something that I keep advising everyone. Breaks don't matter, but staying in touch matters. In fact, I think 5-6 years back, I did a course for a year on AI, almost a hands-on course to create models and all of it. But that was, I don't think my intention there was to find another year. It was more to learn, because for you to be able to guide others or even provide inputs, you should understand it very well. At least that was the intent for me, and I think that was very helpful. In fact, I recently did a CTO course in ISB, again, talking about different technology skills and all of it. I think that's a key for everyone to be able to grow up in that.
To actually have. From a technical role to a leadership role, what do you think are the essential skills or things that you need to keep in mind for people who are aspiring to grow into this transition from tech to leadership? What do you think are vital points?
Actually, a good question, because I know that there's a little bit of a struggle always to really move from this, right? I think beyond tech skills, people management skills are very, very essential. Right? I think the soft skills are the ones which can actually move a person from a tech role to a managerial role. Communication skills are also very, very important. You'll have to be able to communicate what you're saying. Problem solving skills and decision making. I think these are key, at least from my perspective. I think you should be able to solve problems, be able to be with a team and look at things and and at the same time decide quickly as well. One way or the other.
Absolutely. We can't work without deadlines. So
and when I also say decision making in many aspects, right? You will want to make one way or the other, and I normally say decision making is very, very simple if you are able to put it very mathematically in your mind. But
mathematically in your mind, that's a very different perspective. How does
but there are only two options here, and I say this sometimes when
binary
comes to me. There are only three options here. One can't even work, so there are only two in this. So you'll have to pick the one. So we better quickly decide and move on. No point in
That's a very interesting take. Okay. So the lending space has had its own transformative journey over a period of time, right? So what would you say was the lending space like before? Okay, and where do we stand now? So, if you could give us a little bit of elaboration.
Yeah, maybe whether I want to talk about my very, very early experiences of my journey into fintech and this, right? I think this is way back in 2001, 2002. Like I said, I started off as an architect in Indus, and we were working for the financial services division of a Fortune 10 company, one of the largest organizations in the world. We were called to look at the paper process that was there. They all had these legacy systems at that point in time, okay? Through which they were onboarding a customer, giving a loan to the customer and things like that. So it used to be called the time to yes process and the time to cash process.
Okay.
Dealers were sending in faxes to the offices. So they will receive these fax papers from the fax machines, and it will go to the in tray of one person. They will look at the fax. It is the form filled by the people with their details and all of it. They will enter the details, onboard the customer into the green screen systems. And then the paper will move to the next person. They will look at this, and then they will, of course, it will go through the typical underwriting process. And and then a fax will go back to the dealership to say that yes, we have
process.
Yes, we're ready to give the loan.
Okay.
First step, right? Then you will actually sign, get a further information, do the contracting, and then send out the contract and actually do the disbursement. That's the time to cash process.
This would take how many days roughly?
That's of course maybe couple of days even there at that point in time. But I'm talking about, this was in the very first one. I was there in Dublin, in Ireland, and we were looking at this process. So what we did was, and like I said, I was more a techie at that point in time, right? So we said we will put in a fax server which can convert these faxes into images. And we created a workflow process where these images will be seen by people in the front end, and the fields that they're supposed to capture will be seen on the in a split screen,
parallel screen.
So they get to see the image. They also get to see the fields that they are supposed to enter. They will look at it. They'll be able to enter. And it's a workflow system. They send it. The next person sees, and the next person sees, and then it was a simple workflow process sitting on top of a legacy system. But the actual paper process was automated through this. Okay, in fact, the solution itself was called Automate, and we had conceptualized this showing of this image with the fields and all of it at that point in time, and this was launched, I think, around 2022 September or so, if I'm not wrong. But that actually was there were early day difficulties in getting this to work. I was on Lotus Domino, which was supposed to be a workflow solution, and we use that technology for this. But this technology in itself was a big boost for all of them, because they were all not able to think of it like this earlier, right? So the fact that we could bring in different, so they were able to scan in and send, or send it through fax, which became images, and all these images were used by people to do a more digital process rather than a paper process. I think that was the first success, and we launched this in Dublin in Ireland. But from there it caught on. Okay. I think the big success for us was this got rolled out to multiple countries around the world. UK, Portugal, Spain. I think along with it, I have traveled almost to all these places. Germany, and on this side, Thailand had implementation, Korea had an implementation, Singapore had an implementation. So we went all around, and this was a major success actually.
Wonderful to hear. So could I say that has been a very groundbreaking, experience from how paper trail to most of that is being automated, and the turnaround is also like,
So the turnaround improved significantly for them.
Absolutely.
Everything was available not in papers but in digital format, right? All the communication and everything. So that was a big difference, and this is around in 2002. I think it rolled out. We had set up a large team for all the multiple rollouts. For me also there was a slow transformation from being more a techie to managing all these projects, and that's where I evolved into more managerial and a leadership role at that point.
Okay. So Vidhya, I think the right follow-up question would be, since we're all talking about progress, we're talking about how things have helped in the transformation process, what would you say would be a right way of measuring success in these processes?
See, at least with respect to this particular initiative that we had started, success was more, the fact that it was a success is why it really went across multiple countries. I think the turnaround time improved. Like I said, the paper costs were reduced because you didn't have to have paper now. Everything was digital.
Digitized, yeah.
Okay, and a lot of time saved in terms of going back and looking at information. The TAT improved, the turnaround time basically improved for them, and the quality of responses improved. You didn't have to go with paper everywhere, right? You could use copies to work on. I think all of that helped. So that was a major success as well.
Sure, and because it was all digitized, all records are also more easily available and shareable also. Exactly. That is nice to. Back then, I think it would have been absolutely groundbreaking to.
And also the technology that we used was pushed to the boundaries. Is how I would see it as. So it had won awards in multiple places. Was showcased.
Oh, nice. So, when we look at technologies and transformation that technology brings about, right, one of the major, I wouldn't say concern, but one of the inhibiting factors is how each people from each background view these technological adaptations. Like, for instance, if I can make a reference, when advertisements about paying people through mobiles was first introduced, everyone looked at it and said, this is not happening. How am I going to go pay a vendor, a banana vendor, or any other kind of roadside street vendor via my phone? I don't think it's possible. And now that I think people hardly ever carry cash. But however, the transformation came with its own challenges, right? So like that, back then, when technology was not fully understood, was not fully trusted also, so to speak, what was the cultural difficulties that you faced in terms of like explaining this, especially when you said you've traveled the world with this technology? What were the major challenges and how did you overcome them?
Okay, interestingly, I said it was more a corporate push for implementation, and hence the actual system was implemented in multiple places. I think so. To me, at that point in time, again, I was sitting in the, I was more the person who was developing the software product, right? The team there was actually doing the rollout, right? But one of the things that I've noticed, and I still think is very, very relevant even till today, is this system being very intuitive and simple to use was very important for them. I think that helped adaptability of this. But of course, we had communication areas. The way you communicate with different sets of people actually is a little different, okay? And the way people work also is different. I mean, Europeans work in a particular way, okay?
Yes.
And I've also run this in Scandinavian countries. There is a certain way of working. With Americans, the way of working is very different. With Southeast Asians, the way of working is very different. So those were there as well, though it didn't have a huge impact for us, primarily because we also had a centralized team in the company which actually took care of it. I mean, the customer whom we worked with took care of that. I think those differences were there and we had to take care of those. But adoption also, I do know adoption is largely dependent on the culture as well, along with the people. I think simplicity of the system was the key factor in terms of being able to drive that adoption.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And people were able to think of other use cases that we could take this for. Okay, and so I've what happened was those countries came back saying that we want this workflow process also to be automated and digitized.
Okay.
So that happened too. I do think that we will have to build all of that. Trust is the basic factor. How did UPI become so viral? People have seen on the simplicity of the use for this, and also the feel that things are working. Right? When I pay, you get it. There is no major complication around it. That helps, right? So I think those are the factors on which we will have to really build on. But security is